The Galactic Council had always prided itself on civility, diplomacy, and the careful balance of power among its 47 member species. But when the Krell Empire began its systematic extermination of the Vaydari people, that pride crumbled into ash and silence. Rose Martinez stood on the observation deck of the UNSC Defiance, watching the refugee fleet limp through the darkness of space. 15 ships, battered, scorched, and held together by prayers and improvised repairs, carried the last 10,000 Vaydari in existence. Behind them, 3 star systems burned, their worlds reduced to glowing cinders by Krell plasma bombardment. "They're really coming," Alex Chen said quietly beside her, his reflection ghostly in the reinforced glass. As the Defiance's first officer, he'd seen plenty of horrors during humanity's brief tenure in galactic politics. But this was different. This was genocide on a scale that made even Earth's bloodiest wars seem provincial. Rose nodded, her jaw tight. The Council gave them nowhere else to go. 6 months ago, the Vaydari had appealed to the Galactic Council for protection. Their crime? Refusing to surrender mining rights to their resource-rich worlds. The Krell wanted those resources, and when diplomacy failed, they'd simply decided to take them. The Council had voted on intervention. 46 species abstained. Only humanity voted yes. The other species had their reasons, of course. The Krell were powerful, their fleet vast and terrible. The economic implications of war were staggering. Ancient treaties and trade agreements hung in the balance. Every ambassador had stood before the council chamber and explained in careful diplomatic language why their people couldn't possibly risk themselves for the Vaydari. Only Ambassador Catherine Zhao of Earth had spoken differently. "Then we stand alone," she'd said, her words echoing through the crystalline chamber. "Earth will not watch another genocide and do nothing. We've seen what silence costs. We've paid that price in our own blood, on our own soil. Never again means never again for anyone, not just for us." The other species had reacted with shock, then dismissiveness. Humans were newcomers to galactic civilization, barely a century beyond their first faster-than-light experiments. What could they possibly do against the Krell Empire? The answer had surprised everyone. Admiral Marcus Webb had taken 3 Earth fleets, outdated by galactic standards, crewed by beings the older species considered barbaric, and positioned them between the Krell Armada and the fleeing Vaydari. The Battle of Kepler's Gate had lasted 6 days. Human ships, smaller and less advanced, fought with a ferocity that stunned both allies and enemies. They used tactics the Krell had never encountered: kamikaze runs, false retreats, coordinated strikes that prioritized enemy command vessels over tactical advantages. They fought like cornered animals, because in humanity's collective memory, they remembered being cornered themselves. The Krell had eventually withdrawn, shocked by human losses that seemed incomprehensible. Humanity had lost 42 ships and 17,000 personnel. For the galactic community, such casualties for a non-allied species were insane. But for humanity, who had once lost millions to prevent genocides they'd failed to stop earlier in their history, the mathematics was different. They'd bought the Vaydari time to escape. Now Rose watched as the lead refugee ship, the Sanctuary, transmitted docking codes. In the hangar below, Alex knew preparations were already underway. Medical teams, translators, temporary housing fabricators, all scrambling to accommodate 10,000 beings from a completely different evolutionary path. "Do you think Earth will accept them?" Alex asked. "I mean, really accept them? We're talking about permanent asylum for an entire species." Rose turned to look at him. In the harsh light of distant stars, his face showed the exhaustion they all felt. The Defiance had been on patrol for 8 months, protecting the refugee convoy from Krell raiders who still hunted survivors. "We don't have a choice," she said. "What kind of species would we be if we saved them just to turn them away at the door?" "The same kind as the other 46, Alex replied quietly. Rose couldn't argue with that. The Sanctuary drew closer, and through the enhanced view screen, she could see Vaydari faces pressed against their own viewing ports. They looked almost lupine, with elongated snouts and fur that ranged from silver to deep crimson. Their eyes, all 6 of them, reflected the blue light of Earth hanging in the distance. Earth, where the UN General Assembly had voted by a 78% majority to grant the Vaydari permanent asylum. Where cities were already retrofitting buildings to accommodate their different physiology. Where human children were learning Vaydari words, and artists were creating fusion works, and scientists were eager to share research, where people remembered what it meant to be refugees, to be persecuted, to stand at the edge of extinction and pray for mercy. Rose's communicator chimed. Commander Martinez, we're receiving a transmission from the sanctuary. It's Elder Kesseth. Put it through. The Elder Vadery's face appeared on her screen, aged and careworn, but with eyes that held something Rose recognized immediately: hope. Commander Martinez, Kesseth's translated words came through clear. We are approaching Earth, my people. We have no words in our language for what humanity has done. You stood when others sat. You fought when others looked away. You opened your home when we had none. Rose felt her throat tighten. Elder Kesseth, we did what anyone should have done. But you were the only ones who did it, the Elder replied. That is what makes you human. And that is why, when we rebuild, when we are strong again, we will remember. The Vaidari will remember. As the transmission ended, Alex placed a hand on Rose's shoulder. Below, the first refugee ship was preparing to dock. Soon the last 10,000 Vaidari would walk on Earth soil, the newest citizens of a planet that had decided some things were worth standing up for. The Galactic Council might have chosen silence, but humanity had chosen differently. And in a universe that often seemed cold and indifferent, that choice mattered. It mattered more than anyone yet realized.